This is the Winning Strength Podcast brought to you by winningstrength.com and winningstrengthmedia.com. For custom equipment, apparel, personal training, and seminar information, visit winningstrength.com. To purchase any of Matt's training manuals or digital seminars and video training guides, visit winningstrengthmedia.com. Welcome back to the Winning Strength Podcast, coming to you from Columbus, Ohio. Once again, we are here, and we have the legend, Flex Wheeler. Matt, take it away.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is one of the biggest podcasts I've ever wanted to do.
Been talking about it for a while.
A long 5 years, easy.
Really?
So we appreciate you coming in, man.
Pleasure to have you. As I said off camera, I watch a lot of your training videos, and man, what I get really just hooked on, like, man, you have some banging ass music going on. I'm like, this guy is like, he's different than what he looks and appears. I mean, he rides a badass bike, has a badass old school car, and then he's bumping Ice Cube. I'm like, and Too Short and all this stuff. I'm like, God dang.
Yeah, we
Too Short's your go-to. Too Short's
I mean,
number
the thing of it was is that maybe it's just that generation I grew up in. I was in high school in the early 90s, and to me, like, even being a white kid from Indiana, when I wanted to go in and train, I wanted heavy rap. Mm-hmm. I don't know why it spoke to me better, but
I mean, either heavy rap or heavy, like Iron Maiden or something like that. It just, you don't want no Twilight Twinkle Toe stuff on there, freaking on the Bee Gees or something.
No, and when I first started training, I lifted at a local YMCA, and they were playing the most worst shit you could possibly imagine.
Gym music is the worst.
Your Walkmans were so awkward that you just couldn't wear them, so you're just like, fuck it, right?
Yeah, you have no choice. Just block it out and get a good training and get out of there.
When I was lifting in high school, they would bump country music, which is like the opposite of what you want when you're lifting. Just
and
doesn't
the
do
other big
it.
thing is, too, and I wanted to get into that with you, is, my dad died when I was 13, but I never realized how poor I grew up until I got older. And it's not because my mom didn't have a good job, but my sister was born with her heart backwards. Oh. So she's had 3 open heart surgeries. My mom's had to deal with a lot of medical bills.
And God, insurance was different than it is now.
Yeah, I just chewed my mom a new ass. And when I was a kid, I didn't realize, until you get older, how poor you grew up.
You chewed her.
And so the lowrider scene and I guess I was a kid stuck in Indiana that wanted to be in LA. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And so I wanted to talk with you about kind of where you grew up, and I know you grew up in Cali, and kind of how that started to transition you into one of the top bodybuilders to ever live.
I grew up in Fresno, California, and I always say the joke, it's a good place to be from and no longer there.
Yeah.
It was rough times, It was rough times. Fresno is very racial charged area. Back then, the police department was really, racial and corrupt, even though I became an officer, because I always understood that they don't define the police department. And even now, you hear all the things and you see all the things, now because of, the internet and phones, but I still understand that they don't define the police department. It's one of the most honorablest things you can do when people are running, from a problem, they're running to it, or, people are cussing them out, but as soon as something goes wrong, they're calling them. So that's the true meaning of the police department and what I want to be a part of, even though I've seen the racial part. But
would you say that growing up there, I mean, for people in the Midwest, and like where I grew up, all we had to go off of that is like watching the Compton riots, watching the L.A. police in the early '90s and '80s. Was that kind of the
Well,
you
that
grew up
action, in action movies that taught us it was a war zone.
Yeah. So that was more in L.A., but I bear witness to it because, you know.
Is that the feel, though, that was in
Yeah,
Fresno?
because, you know, what Fresno was like what do we call it? A smaller town that mimics bigger problems. So they end up making it worse in that small area. You know, at least in L.A., there's certain areas you just don't go to. I mean, still now, there's certain areas I would not step my ass into.
Yeah.
Fresno is so much smaller that it just spills over everywhere.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just black gangs or Mexican gangs. We had Laotian gangs because once the foreigners start coming in, you know, when you come from a different country, you know, and I've always realized that from going like to Russia and Ukraine back in the days.
Yeah.
Someone gets shot or stabbed, people just continue moving. They don't like, oh my gosh, call the police. The police ain't showing up. You know what I mean? They just kind of scoot around and just walk like I didn't see nothing.
It's like everybody's individual problem.
Yeah, and they don't touch it. So, you know, it got really out of hand when a lot of the Laotians started moving into the black neighborhoods, and they literally just took over. So in carjacking, normally you walk up to a guy, get out, you know, you give him an opportunity before you shoot him.
Yep.
What they would do is they'd have a car parked in front, you know, so it'd have a lead car. He'd pull in front of you at a light. Another car pull up behind you. So the light turns, you know, green.
Blocked you,
and you're mad. So you get out of your car. Next thing you know, there's some guy underneath their car cutting your Achilles heels and leaving you on the ground, and they taking the car. Didn't even give you an opportunity to say, hey, man, I'll give it up. You know, here's my wallet, ATM's right here.
Yeah.
You know, so it was rough, but there was a lot of great athletes that came from Fresno also. And
so
I
give us some names that.
You know what? For me, Charlie Young was the first person I ever heard of. He played for the San Francisco 49ers, and I graduated from a school called Edison on the west side, you know, predominantly black school, which interesting now is predominantly all white. That used to be the ghetto, right?
Yeah.
So I remember going to a school assembly back when we used to have those. And the speaker came, and here this guy is. And I mean, at the time, you know, I didn't know what I was going to be. I was super small, super skinny.
Yeah, I've seen pictures.
You know, dyslexic, so a very, you know, difficult time learning. You know, back then they didn't know what dyslexia was.
Yeah, they didn't really know.
So
if
they
you
just
had
considered us
problem,
stupid.
like you're an idiot.
They just think we're an idiot. So what I would do is I would just, you know, flip the teacher off immediately or cuss her out. Now you don't know that I can't spell or I can't read. You just kick me out or I get a paddling. So I just kind of learned that it's better just to get in trouble than to expose myself and be teased.
Yeah.
You know, for the rest of the
Did
school
the teasing or any of those other factors start to make you want to be bigger and more muscular?
No, not at all. It just made me angry. So I was already in martial arts. I started martial arts when I was about 7. And
I noticed I know that I've seen, and even when you were in your prime, your flexibility was
because I started.
unbelievable.
So as a kid, you're flexible anyway. Unlike kids now, I don't get it. You know, how could you be like 7 and stiff? I just don't make no sense. But
yeah. I think the big thing is mine was the first generation, and I'm a little bit younger than you, that video games never replaced playing outside. But your generation, you guys didn't even have that
My
shit.
mother were like, get outside and go play. Get out of the house. Like,
I think that's probably the reason.
yeah, just get out of the house and be back before the street lights come on, or else, you know, you're going to get it. So so I started, you know, fighting when I was really young, and I got super, super good, you know, at an early age. But I was just timid, so I wouldn't fight in school, you know. So, you know, the bullies would bully me and all this. I'd get beat up, and I just couldn't bring myself to hitting a person. And I've said it a billion times. It was even in junior high when I was in a shower, and this bully literally peed on me in the shower.
Wow.
And I kind of just looked around like, you know, well, nobody's seeing it. Fuck, I'm in a shower, you know, no reason of taking an ass whooping. I'll just wash myself off.
Yeah.
I just couldn't bring myself to hitting somebody. So what I started doing is having all the bullies come as a guest to my school. And I would just eat them alive in there. You know, I could bring myself to terms to putting hands on them there.
Yeah.
And then they would go back to school and let everybody know not to.
At your martial arts
Yeah,
school.
yeah.
Okay.
And then they would go back to school and say, hey, don't mess with him. He can fight.
He's
you
a
know?
badass,
So,
yeah.
but then it just clicked on me the next year when I got into 8th grade.
Yep.
It just something clicked.
So you started messing around with weights, which I thought was ironic that me, you, and O'Hearn all started lifting around 10 and 11.
Yeah, first competition, I was 16. I think I was 16 when I started training. I was 11, but I don't know. I mean, I don't want to offend anybody, but it's like, you know, boys play with barbells and girls play with Barbie.
Yep.
You know, I think maybe, you know, Some
Yeah. Did you have
guys
anybody
play
that
with
was around
Barbie,
that was
you know.
around you that you saw was jacked and like pushed you into the gym? What gave you that
It
drive?
was just normal. I mean, you know, back then,
Yeah.
it was 501 jeans, a titanium shirt with your belt sticking out that matched, and having guns hang out your shirt for your girls. I mean, that's all I was into it for, you know. I was known back then as Skinny Kenny, so, I mean, the best means was going to a track meet or an outside event in summer, you know, and just looking good and trying to catch girls' attention. So that was my drive then, you know.
Yeah, just the aesthetic
Did
part.
it come quickly to you? I mean, when you started lifting, or did it take you a long time to build that size?
As far as my arms, they came super fast, but we didn't do nothing anyway. I mean, nobody knew about squatting back then.
Yeah.
So it was benching and curls, and that was it. And push-ups, you know what I mean? And it's funny because back then it was, you know, if you had a weight set, you had the concrete 110-pound weight set.
Yeah.
So in my neighborhood, anybody who could bench that 110 was like the man. You know?
Yeah.
Here I am struggling like 30
Yeah,
pounds.
all I'm thinking of is Friday when they're benching on the porch.
The front,
man.
the front yard.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, pretty much. So,
So what would you say, you know, for me, like coming up as a kid, I always admired not only your symmetry with how lean you could get your waist and how wide you could get your shoulders, but how big your fucking arms were. How big were your arms at 16?
you know what? I don't really think they're that big. I always threw off an illusion of looking bigger than I was. For those very different reasons, small joints, even now, just super skinny wrists and small elbows and bony elbows, bony knees. You can see my knees just sticking through there. So when you have an illusion of things going in and coming out, it looks even more so. But, you know, I get asked that question all the time. What did I do to achieve that? That's like me asking you, how tall are you?
6'1".
So how did you do that? What did you do to become 6'1"? I mean, I want to do that.
Yeah.
It's hereditary. It's genetics. It's going to happen. So, you know, I'm what we call arm dominant. So it didn't matter what the freak I did. My arms just grew. And honestly, back then, I didn't give a damn about anything else.
Yeah, just looking good, trying to pick up chicks.
Just trying to, you know, trying to pick up chicks.
That's awesome, man. What was so you started kind of getting fairly serious at 16.
Yeah.
So you'd already been lifting for 5 years.
Yeah.
Then it took how much longer to get your pro card?
Oh my God. So started my first competition, I was around 16, and I think I won the USA at 27.
Yeah, so you're talking 11 more years.
Yeah, 11 more years before I even got.
And this is something that me and you share because you starting to hit your pinnacle at 28, and I was the same way.
Yeah,
nothing came fast for me or you.
No, I was a very immature built mentally. I was very immature, and just, you know, I mean, my brother, who is only barely a year older than me, was just super advanced at everything. He was a world class fastest man in the valley then. He was a A1 football player, you know, he's an A1 person with his mitts, you know.
Yeah.
But he just developed a lot faster than me, so I was just a late bloomer. And I think that was a good thing because it held me back until I was really good enough.
Yeah.
So, you know, back then, you know,
Gave you the muscle, mental maturity.
Definitely, and discipline and everything, which I kind of got from, you know, martial arts anyway. But, you know, back then you could only turn pro at 3 events. Either you got to win the USA, the entire thing, the North America, the entire thing, or the nationals. So if you took second in your class, you had to come back. Or even if you were a class winner, you had to come back the next year.
Wow.
So that just made you seasoned and better and better. So
constantly qualifying.
Yeah, definitely.
Constantly never getting out of
and
shape
it's a
too
little
much.
bit, no, never, because I mean, you wanted to work and you had another show. So if you did the USA, which you want to target first, if you missed that, then you show up at the North America. Then if you missed that, you show up at the Nationals, and then you got to start all over.
Yep.
So, you know, that was, I think, one of the best things for me because I did the USA and I lost to, you know, great Mike Matarazzo, rest in peace. And then I went to the Nationals and I lost against Kevin Lerone, who were more advanced or closer to their plateau than I was.
Yep.
And then finally, when I came back the following year, you know, I was able to establish my pro card. But I think that it took me over a year to turn pro. When I finally turned pro, then I started winning immediately. My first 4 pro shows, and I ended up winning.
I just remember seeing all those other guys and seeing you and go, that symmetry is just fucking unbelievable.
You know what? I think sports pick you if you're smart enough to understand. You know, I think sports pick you now. The great thing about, you know, bodybuilding, anybody can work out. Anybody can work out. Anybody can achieve to look good, but doesn't mean you're going to be a pro.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, I love basketball. I suck. I don't know how to dribble. I don't know how to shoot. So I'm in there like, you know, I go take Michael Jordan's class and Kobe's class and Larry Bird's class. Listen, you suck. You know, so what happens with our sport is, being that anyone can do it, people think that entitles them or gives them
and
the
then the other
ability
big
to go
thing
in
is
as
they
a
think
pro.
the big secret's a ton of drugs.
Yeah,
Which we both know that's not true.
No, I mean, if that's the case, then
Yeah, every asshole over at the Arnold this weekend would be the next
Yeah.
and the scary
Flex
thing
Wheeler.
about it is you find that now that I never knew it. I found out like the last 15 years, but guys actually diet and go hard just to walk around.
I know.
They're not even
I know.
competing.
For 2 fucking days.
Yeah, I mean, like for the Olympia, cats go hard in the paint,
But you
just so
think-
they can go to the pool parties. And I mean, they're diuretic up, drugs up, and I'm like, wow, man. I'm like, really?
Before we get too far ahead, can you go back and talk about, so you started lifting weights, and you wanted to have those guns, sun's out, guns out. So there's obviously a huge difference between lifting weights and getting big and what you do, talking about the symmetry, talking about perfecting that build. When, where, how did you learn to go from just lifting all these weights and getting big to building that particular
I had
body?
some great, Fresno big names that helped me. One guy was Jeff Lawson, who was very established business. And he also, won a lot of local shows there. He was like the man. And then another guy named Joe Jennings, who ran a gym, and he was a strong man and also a bodybuilder. And just for whatever reason, they just took me under their wing.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about it, like I said, Fresno is very diverse and was very racial when I lived there. But my grandmother raised me, and she was born in 1909. So
Wow.
you got to imagine what she really bared witness to.
Isn't that crazy generation? They saw before fucking cars.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, their whole life changed. Like, we have like better video games now, but everybody drives. Everybody has electricity.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
people didn't know shit.
I remember her telling me that
floors.
she had to walk 5 miles just to go to school.
Yeah.
And walk 5 miles
And,
back.
and you believed it.
Oh, well, it's
You know what I mean?
But, I mean, even I hear it from so many old timers that it's true because there was no school bus.
Yeah.
But she just taught me there's no black and white. There's just good and bad. So again, historically, you got to understand she's seen true hangings, true cut off and shoved in the mouth and all this stuff, and for her to come out and say,
and you growing up in one of the most racially,
and
I
she
would say
just
probably
kept-
the most racially worst generations that we've ever had, especially in California.
back
That
then.
So
she just raised me. There's no black and white. She goes, there's just good and bad.
sounds like
and
a
I
great
just
person.
didn't see color, even though color seen me. I just grew up not seeing color.
Mm-hmm.
So, and why I bring that up is because Jeff Lawson, one of the first people who started helping me was white.
Yeah.
So I'm growing up and I'm not understanding why you want to help me.
Well, it's a white guy helping me.
What's
What's
the
the
end
catch?
game for you? I don't have no money. I'm not gay, so I don't get on like that. So I don't get it. And his thing was just, you have a gift I don't. And I want to see how far you can go.
That's
and
pretty
then,
badass.
the other guy was a black guy, Joe Jennings, and he's like, if you ever stop chasing girls and chase weights harder, you chase girls, you might become something.
Mm-hmm.
And it just stuck in my head. So, Jeff Lawson, every day after work, he was a chiropractor.
Mm-hmm.
Every day after work, meet me at the gym. We go over the training schedule. He helped me with my diet and all that stuff. And I ended up winning a couple of NPC shows, and then ended up winning the California Championship and then the USA after
So
a
did
couple
you
of
stay
years.
your whole career training in Fresno?
Yeah, I stayed in Fresno until after I won the California. So 89.
Okay. Then where'd you move to?
LA.
You went
it
to
was
LA?
Just back then.
So you were at Gold's training there?
Yeah, I was at Gold's Gym, so I was able to.
So who were the
witness
heavy
all that.
hitters
Oh
in
my
the
gosh.
early '90s there?
I'll F up to try to remember them all, but Gary Stridham, Mike Christian,
Was Cormier?
Barry DeMay. Yeah, Chris came a little bit later. I got there before he did.
See, that's barely at the time I don't remember because my first big one that I can really remember was Dorian, but I was 14, But yeah, so you had Cormier coming a little bit later.
Yeah. And we
Arnold
actually
was already
met.
way out of the game.
Yeah, he already had left. He didn't show up.
He was
to
fucking
right-
around there
yeah,
though, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Like every once in a while.
No, back then he didn't because
Really?
that's when he was gearing himself up to begin in the political category.
So
at
he
that
wanted to
time
separate
he
himself for that.
Yeah, so he didn't come, but I had a lot of an involvement with him, because I won Arnold a couple of times, and he was just always nice, so that just really threw me
Yeah.
off. But once I read his story and understood, I mean, the guy came from shit. You know what I mean? So
Similar
he used
to
to
us.
always do a lot of inner city, youth type of activities with poor kids and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And he actually sent me a letter after I won the Arnold twice and say, I want you to show up and speak to the kids.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I went, and I was like, what's the common denominator here? Why is this, very well off, very super powerful Terminator. Now, heading into the political arena. Why is he around all these kids, that just don't have anything? And then, I understood it. That's where he came from.
So he wanted to give back to that area.
Yeah, so he never turned his back on it. And one of the greatest stories I have about him, I remember we were at Nike Town. Me and Rico, my training partner, went to Nike Town in Beverly Hills. And I think I won the Arnold twice or 3 times already. So when I walked in, he was right in center talking to somebody. So Rico, who's a smart ass, my best friend in the world, he goes, "Hey, there goes Arnold. When you go sit down," I'm like, I'm not gonna go and invade that man's space. I don't know him like that. Yeah. So I was kind of walking around, and we go, "Hey, Flex, how you doing?" He walked up, gave me a big hug, and I'm like, "Hey, Arnold, how are you?" I'm uncomfortable by this man's presence. You got to understand what he had achieved at that time.
And I think everybody is. I mean, like, I hung out with him a little bit. Arnold and O'Hearn introduced me to him. Yeah. And you just can't help but sit back. And I think it's
certain people have a presence.
Yeah. And he has an incredible presence.
That's what I've heard.
And he's super quick. I mean, don't tell no jokes. I mean, he can go raunchy or whatever like this. Just super freaking quick. So,
so you're over in LA about 90, 91, and you keep your entire career there training?
Yep, I stay there the entire time. I end up being a bouncer. So for a while, I would drive the weekend to LA to work, and then drive back home because I couldn't afford to live in LA until I end up establishing.
Were you living
myself.
like in Venice? Is that where you were, or back up in?
No, actually, I was living in Ventura County, like Thousand Oaks, like corn capital, of California.
Oh, it's all starting to come together.
Yeah. So I dabbled a little bit in that,
I've rode through there a little bit.
Black Luther is what they call it.
So you're there. When do you feel like you were at the pinnacle of your physicality? I mean, what year? What year do you feel like everything was
we all
hot?
talk about that. Me and Ronnie and Jay and all of us. And the bad part about it is we were so deep into trying to achieve. I don't even remember.
You don't
I remember, a couple of years ago sitting with Ronnie and I was like, "Do you remember any of our battles?" He's like, "Nope." Yeah. Because, I would brainwash myself that I live in reality. Eating, sleeping, and training and not doing anything else is normal. Everybody else is effed up. If you're playing video games or going to the movie or hanging out at nightclubs, you're effed up. And that's the only way I could stay into this world is by creating my alter world so that I wouldn't be unhappy.
Because it's the discipline on that, even beyond powerlifting, is so extreme because – and I'm starting to kind of just dabble in it a little bit now because I eat super clean. So it's train, eat, sleep, and recover.
And recover. And that's how you grow. So when I would even brainwash myself that when I win a show, I would give myself, I'm like, you got like 2 hours to feel great about this. Then you got to shut that down because you can be partying about this and next week and get your ass handed to you. Nobody's going to give a damn that you're the champion from last week. So I'd win the Arnold and then get ready to take off from Europe. So I'd have my pizzas whenever by the end of that night, I have to turn it off and be angry.
I always thought, if I was stepping into your shoes, I always thought it would help you that you came up in what I consider probably one of the hottest areas.
We didn't know that then.
We
look back in history and we see that. But we didn't know
it.
But
you had a lot of dudes that were really pushing the shit out of you.
It was just normal. Yeah. It was just normal. We just grinded in there. Goes Gym Venice was so incredible because you'd have any A-list actor there and it would be normal and sit there and talk to you. You'd have Olympic gold medalists. I remember Jackie Joyner, her being in the gym and I walked by her and she goes, "Hey, Flex, how you doing?" I almost shit myself. I'm like,
she's talking to you?
Actually know
she
who
knows
I am.
who you are, yeah.
Back then Chicago Bulls was like really getting down dirty with LA Lakers. So they would be in the gym and they'd walk up and just say hi. You know what I mean? So it was just a place that, it didn't matter who you were. When you walked through those doors, you weren't shit but other than a person in there training. Nobody was uppity or else back then you get your ass handed to you real quick. It wasn't a problem.
It still feels a little bit that way. I was over there and we were training with Mike maybe 6 months ago and Frank Stallone is there, and I kind of know who he is, but he's not. Obviously, I'd know if it was Sylvester. And Mike's like, that's Stallone's, and he's cool as shit.
Yeah.
It's and you're just normal. Like, oh, this is crazy. You know what I mean? Coming from the Midwest, where you don't see a whole lot of that. But.
No, definitely. So
you talked about how you were always dialed in and creating your own reality. Did you get to enjoy it at all? No.
Just flashed away, didn't it?
Yeah, because like I said, by the end of the night, I'd have to turn it off and be like, okay, who gives a F that I won tonight? They're not going to be afraid of me next Saturday. They're not going to be running. So what difference does it make? So don't sit there and be all happy about what you did freaking, a few hours ago. When
Yeah,
you
you're
can
so
go
busy
and get paid.
climbing, you can't.
So how many years were you in that zone? I mean, how many before you could finally at least look back?
Since I turned pro and understood that it's a business. So I mean, I always got crap back then that you should do this for the sport. And I'm like, bullshit. I get paid to do this. This has changed my lifestyle. I was ass poor before I did this. This is my job. I was a police officer before. I worked in a jail. I just didn't make a lot of money. I come from nothing. I come from welfare. I come from being homeless and not having food and stuff like that. So my first pro 2 shows, I made $10,000 back then at the Ironman, and I made $90,000 at the Arnold. That's $100,000. That's more than I made in my entire history of being, 27 years combined.
Yeah.
So, I mean, immediately I realized, man, this is a freaking job.
There's a level of hunger that you have coming from that level that just puts you in a whole nother.
And I think that's why you have a lot of great athletes. You have some that didn't have to, but, you have a lot of great fighters who just come through hell. Mm-hmm. And they're like, I get paid to do this? I had to do this every day on the street, for food or whatever. And now I get paid to hurt somebody? Are you kidding? Mm-hmm. I'm going to up my game big time and enjoy this,
a lot of times, and I think the problem with this newer generation coming up is they don't understand that adversity builds work ethic.
It does, 100%. I often wonder, is it softening? I remember what's the great wrestler, he passed away, god dang it, he was always shredded, the Warrior, Ultimate Warrior. Yeah, he did a video and he was talking about men vagina, you know what I mean, and he was just yelling about how soft men are and and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, but you look back in history, you look at men's from like the 1900s, they were like warriors, right?
Tough as nails,
walking the beams, building the building with no rope or anything straps. Like that, just work freaking all day long, come home, do the right thing, go back to work. We really kind of,
pushed away from that.
I don't know what's going on, what's in the water, what I mean? But I'm not my father, and my father agrees that he's not his father, you know what I mean? And you go continuously back. So I'm not sure, but I think it's a double-edged sword. So the internet and everything else should be incredibly great, and has done incredibly great things, but it has done incredibly, horrible things also. So it's really whatever you make it.
It's a balance.
Yeah, it's whatever you make it, and whatever type of person you are. But I won't say it's easier. I just say there's a lot of more opportunities out there for you. Mm-hmm. But the playing field is even. So old timers like us who don't come from the digital footprint and platform, those are open to us. We just didn't grow up, So right. my 10-year-old daughter knows how to work an iPhone better than I ever could at that age, because she grew up with it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So
that's the one big thing that's pushed me to build that YouTube channel, was because I was tired of getting on. What sparked it was about 6 months ago, I had firemen messaging me on my phone asking me, hey, what's this exercise? I'm like, well, look it up on YouTube and see what you find. And they're coming back and showing me, and I'm like, I need to make a YouTube channel that actually has real shit.
And that's the thing, because just because it's on the internet, people perceive it to be real. Mm-hmm. I remember my brother, is my brother is incarcerated. And have been
the older one that's only about a year older than you?
Yeah, have been his whole life. Haven't never got to see me compete as a pro.
Shit.
Never got to witness traveling with me the world and just seeing what it was like.
That'd probably be the one thing you could go back and change a little bit then, huh?
Yeah, because he would have had fun.
You just shared it with you. Yeah, he could have had fun for you and then explained to you what you were going through. What you missed.
Yeah, he's done his good of that. But what I was going to say is,
what did Eastbound and Down guy say he could get the run off Pinoche?
So true. Actually, I forgot my thought of where I was going with that. The whole Pinoche thing.
I know. You're saying that he never got to see.
He never got to see you compete. Your older brother.
Yeah.
Because he's been locked up the whole time.
I still forgot where I was going with that. Yeah, I'll come back to it.
It's okay. I think from looking back at videos and watching you, I think right when I graduated high school is when I remember seeing pictures of you, thinking that you were at the best I saw you, which was about 97. 98.
And, you know, just the sad part about it, I've said it a billion times, I was just the world's greatest chameleon.
Yeah.
I mean, I always thought I looked like crap. You know, I was an
Isn't it
incredible
crazy?
introvert. You know, I have incredibly low self-esteem. But I just, at an early age, I just learned that if people find out what your weaknesses are, they'll use it against you.
Right.
So I had to almost, not knowing it, you know, now I understand I created this alter ego Flex Wheeler cat, you know, to protect Kenny, you know. So this Flex Wheeler cat, you know, will get in your face, you know, how you want to make it happen, let's make it happen, you know, where, you know, I was completely opposite, but I knew if I didn't become that person, they would use me as a person. That happened my whole childhood.
Who's a lot like that is Kaz.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We interviewed Kaz last year, and he talked about he's Bill Kazmaier.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
he's
of course I know who
Kaz.
he is. Yeah.
And Kaz is like the full retard, like, get in my way and I'll knock this whole fucking building down. And the other Kaz is kind of talkable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you, if you don't mind, as much as you're comfortable with, can you talk about the genesis of that? Like, where does that insecurity come from? Where did that needing to build your alter ego come from?
You know, I don't know. I mean, I had a hard childhood. I was beaten.
You think the dyslexia maybe did it?
That did too. I mean, come on. I mean, just at your bare innocence, you know, you're not able. So I wasn't able to comprehend why I wasn't able to read. You know, I mean, I literally, even now, I look at words and they'll move around. So as you're reading, if I'm like, you know, if I'm in church as a kid and they say pull the Bible out and the pastor's reading, I can't literally make out words, not read them. I can't literally make out words as fast as he's reading them.
Right.
And if I try to read them in my brain, I can almost do it. But once I say them out loud, if someone corrects me, it's almost like the words move literally. And then I'm like, wow. And same thing, I put my kids' socks on backwards. So as a child, when you find out you have a handicap and they really haven't identified to it, yet they make you feel like you're an idiot, you probably, I guess, grow some insecurities.
And did you not have anybody at that time to
No,
kind of have your back?
no one, because no one knew.
Yeah, and if you're coming from low income, they're not going to be educated
there's
enough.
no
Well, I think
education
back then,
about that,
period,
but no
nobody
school,
really knew.
none of the schools. I mean, so, and I didn't help the situation because I got tired. So back then, you had to go write on a blackboard. So-and-so, come and spell so-and-so on the board. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, so after going up there, you know, for a very short period of time and then have everybody tease you at recess, I just became this kid that you just didn't talk to. Hey, you know, Kenny, come write, you know, whatever, marijuana on a blackboard. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't that type of rebellious kid, I was super quiet. I was an introvert, but
It's a defense
I
mechanism.
just learned that I'd rather get in trouble and they think I'm a badass, send me to, you know, I'm going to get a paddling, because back then you got your ass handed to you in school by the principal, right? You got paddlings. You could pick which one you want. The one with the little holes in it, the big wide one, or the ones in a line, you know, which one you want. So I just came to the mind frame that I'd rather get a paddling instead of getting teased for the whole year.
And did that lead into more trouble when you got home?
Of course. Oh, yeah, because, I mean, my mom was a disciplinarian, so back then, principal calls your parent, hey, you know, going to give so-and-so a paddling. Okay, consent. And obviously, you know, you get on the phone, you know, you're going to get an ass whooping when you get home, too. So double whammy, but, hey, good bet. You know what I mean?
Showing off the
that
weakness.
and then having ridiculed by your peers. So that probably started it also, and probably led into everything else of just not having a good, you know, lifestyle, you know, hand me down, you know, like you were saying, we were super poor, but I didn't really know it, because everyone in my neighborhood was on welfare.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, you know, seeing a little letter stick out of everybody's mailbox when your mailbox used to be at your home. You know what I mean? And it was just a welfare letter that you had to turn in. I remember one day just walking down the street. There's one. So you kind of just normal. You don't know. Only till you grow up do you look back and it's like, wow.
You say that really changed, the tipping point changed when you got that $100,000 that one year?
Yeah,
from winning?
it did. But, you know, and I mentor tons of people now, you know, kids, especially trying to men, because the mistakes I made as a man and a boy, I don't want them, you know, to continue. But the bad part about that is normally you learn some type of business or moralities from the men in your house. So being that at that time when I made $90,000, I made more than anyone that I knowingly know in my family tree.
Yeah.
So I didn't know my money was in my freezer.
Yeah.
I didn't know what a bank account was.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I could have a bank account. So I went and bought all my furniture because, you know, with cash. I went and got an apartment, and I didn't know how to sign. I didn't even know how to fill out an application. And the lady's like, well, do you have any credit? I'm like, what's that? And she goes, well, how are you going to pay for this? I'm like, I got my Weeder contract, and I got $100,000. And she just looked at me and had pity on me, and she was like, you know what? Okay, son, I'll help you out here. You fill this out here and put that money back away. You know what I mean? And I'll take your contract, and that'll be your proof of income. And I went and bought all my furniture, and I took, I think I had like $70,000 left cash, and I just put it in my freezer. And I never cooked because I went to the firehouse and ate 7 times a day. Actually 6 times a day. My first meal would be oatmeal. I made oatmeal and a protein drink. And then I go and eat at Firehouse every day. So I never bought any food. So if I ever had guests over, which rarely I did, if you came to my home and you open a freezer, you get one time.
Yeah.
And obviously, you open it and then you close and you look at me, I'm like, you got once. If you open it again, we got a serious problem because now ain't no fucking food in there.
Yeah.
The only other reason you're opening it again is because of money. So this is going to define whoever it is, whether it's my brother, my mother, my father. You open it again, we got an issue.
Yeah.
It's interesting you bring that up because you didn't, and by no fault of your own, you didn't have those life skills.
No.
Do you think that's what other athletes run into when they get to that point?
Yeah, that and also trust issues. So I did have a few people in my life, like Robin Chain, who used to be my manager, who we all know is brilliantly smart, and a few other people, Ed Connors, who helped me buy my first house. But you just you have trust issues with people. You know what I mean? So how am I going to trust you with my money? And I have insecurity issues and identification issues. So if I go and buy this $130,000 car, back in the 90s, which is this pretty nice car, and, buy this $20,000 or $21,000 Rolex, now you're not looking at me. You're looking at the clothes I wear immediately, because this is LA. You're going to look at the car I got out of. Then you're going to check me out, see what kind of clothes I got on. You might end up looking at the jewelry I got on, and then you're done. You know what I mean? So that was my image of my persona, what I put out there.
Is that when Flex Wheeler was born?
Yeah, pretty much. I was never, because I come from getting beat up. So when I started fighting, what I was going to say is a guy who pissed on me. The next year, it just clicked. And I remember the first day in school, I seen him, I'm like, hey, I remember you. Yeah. Picked him up, slammed him, bing. I just didn't bother me anymore by giving people the business. So I never started it, but man, all you got to do is just let me know, and I'm going to quickly give it to you and enjoy it, because it was just like, so I pretty much only went and beat up the people who ever beat me up before. They got it, you know what I mean? But I just wouldn't start shit, but look at me the wrong way. Stayed in my lane. Looked at, so just like driving, I use it all the time. Stay in your effing lane or else you get bent up. So you're in a car and you actually get in somebody, your car gets bent up. So I looked at it like, listen, stay in your lane or I'm going to try to bend you up. So all this experience in martial arts, fighting all over the world and winning and all that stuff, and I end up fighting like over 600 fights and never even getting scored on. So I was really good. And my trainer back then, who was my mentor and everything, said, he already said, he goes, you were probably 100 times better as a fighter than you ever were as a bodybuilder. And for him to see my whole career, gives you an idea.
Nobody knows that. I didn't know you.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Man, it was crazy.
So you were fighting at the same time you were bodybuilding?
Yeah. So I did my first. I think I fought the first time I was like 13, and I would always take second. And third. It was just. It hadn't clicked over. It's like a fighter. You have to have that switch. And I couldn't click over and become that violent person. But once I did, I loved everybody. I gave everybody a hug. But as soon as they say fight, I'm trying to hurt you. I want to break something on you. Yeah. And I want to do spinning and flamboyant flying side kicks and stuff like that. I want to embarrass you. But as soon as it's done, I would pick the person up and pat them on the back and raise their hand, because it's not about that anymore. But again, I would just warp my brain that, as I would sit there and you walk in an arena, I'm really just psyching myself to F out by saying, listen, this guy thinks he can beat me. Yeah. He needs to walk out of the ring right. So I'm constantly saying this, looking at the guy. He really thinks he can be. Really? You think? So I'm expecting this grown man to turn around and just walk out of the ring. So I'm getting violently angry because he's still standing there. Now, how twisted is that? And I'm like looking at him, and back then I would yell and scream and walk around in circles, and I'm like, really? And that's what I'm saying to myself. So I would just try to unleash everything on him. So once I do that, I own you now. Yeah. If I establish myself within the first 15 seconds by just kicking you out of the ring or hitting you so freaking hard where you buckle. Now I can do my super great stuff.
Yeah.
Because I own you. So it's not about you trying to return fire. It's you trying to understand what I'm about to throw at you. You're no longer doing
You've already
that.
turned them submissive.
Yeah. And,
Did you notice with the martial arts stuff that the weight training was really helping? Because what you find with
the discipline, 100%.
Yeah, and a lot of the martial arts though, what you found, especially at that generation, they weren't using lifting weights to get
which
all
was
that.
crazy. And I fought all the way up until I won the California. I remember I won the California championship, and then I went and fought.
So that's about
Sunday.
88,
89.
89.
And I went and fought and won the California championship fighting that Sunday. And I remember talking to Ty McGuire, who used to pay for my food when I was dieting because I was just ass broke, and he was also my trainer, and he owned a school, and I didn't have to pay for it because he just like, hey, you have a special ability, I'm going to sponsor you, and just paid for everything, my gis, my food. When I would compete, he'd pay for my tuna.
Cool.
Incredible. So here he is, invested all this money in me as a fighter, and at 19 he told me, in 1 year, you'll be the best fighter in California, and in 2 years, you'll be the best fighter in the United States. Well, in 1 year, I was the best fighter in my entire division in the United States.
Yeah.
So, and then yet he would go in and help me with all my bodybuilding shows. He'd actually train with me. So we would train in weights. He'd train with me, so I'm kind of giving something back to him. And then we go to school, which is right in the same place, and we fight all day and all night.
What would you say? What was the biggest you got weight wise?
298. Yeah,
So you got to 298.
Unhealthy.
Damn, that's
unhealthy.
big.
That's
big on your frame.
Yeah, back then we just didn't know. Bigger don't means better. Better means better.
So what was when you were at your probably your peak muscle mass? Let's say what 230, 220. When did you think
56?
256.
Yeah, 256.
That's big on your frame.
Yeah,
because I'm 258 right now.
I'm not that.
So I can't imagine.
So there's a video. If you look it up, you can Google or YouTube Flex Wheel 1998 French Grand Prix.
So you were 58 in that?
256, yeah.
What was your diet looking like at that time?
Filet mignon.
Tons of filet. I love filet. I eat it all the time.
Filet mignon, yeah. Just red meat. And I had the ability of going 0 carbs for long periods at a time. So I would go like 2 or 3 months of just filet mignon.
How many times a day were you eating roughly?
7.
7.
So 88 ounces of filet mignon a day. And I hate steak.
But filet you can smoke.
Well, no, I have to take it to a butcher. So back then you couldn't just buy it really in a store. So I'd go to the meat place and have a butcher put it through a grinder. So I hate steak, so I need to see it. I'm really mental and effed up like that. So I need to see it and visualize it as a hamburger.
Okay.
So once he puts it through the meat grinder a few times, it's just so gooey.
I wonder if that's your
that I
background
make just
because
a
when I went and delivered 3 belt squats to Xavier, they have a lot of kids that come from, inner cities, and they will not eat steak. They will eat hamburgers.
Well, it's just a poor man's food.
If you never have it growing up, if you've never been exposed to it,
and
it'd
what
be
you're
weird.
used to. Yeah, and
So
it's
question,
very inexpensive.
is that where Stan got the vertical diet stuff?
Well, I won't say that. Stan is super, super, super intelligent.
But it's funny that you're
scary.
talking about ground stuff, and he's always talking about.
Well, obviously, I have the honor of saying I trained him to win his pro card, and I remember, I was so intimidated by him because I may have done certain things on stage, but this guy has went to school and learned all this. So I remember interviewing him because I'll interview a person before I work with him. I want to know if you're twisted, if you're effed up. If you say something like, I want to be the next Miss Olympia, you need somebody else. I can't help you.
Yeah.
Because you already set yourself up for failure, which means I'm going to fail you.
Yeah, you want somebody to say they can be the best they can be.
I can be, and then let's go find out what that is. You know what I'm saying? So I remember sitting and I'm telling my philosophy to Stan, and here he is.
He's a fucking
I already know he's
workhorse.
freaking strong and all that.
Every time I go with him, he comes in here.
Yeah.
We've trained.
I've seen him.
We trained legs on what was it? Monday, Tuesday?
Yeah,
Tuesday.
you guys where he squatted that stupid amount.
Like 700.
Crawling there,
And then I'm like, I haven't been under a straight bar in like a year, so I just crawl underneath it too, and I'm still paying for it. But what's funny is like when I go to train with him, or he's coming in here with me, or I go to Vegas with him, I got to bring my fucking Wheaties.
Yeah, he's mental.
Because he is just.
He's just mental.
The only other guy I've ever ran into that, you probably never met him before, was Chuck Vogelpool. He broke like 10 world records in the squat. He was my old squat partner.
And the difference about Stannis is he don't need to. He's financially okay.
Yeah.
So it's just different
It's
to
just
have
passion.
a guy go that hard who's financially okay. So I end up interviewing him, and I gave him my price, which was I said it before. So it's $500 a day. So he literally moved out of his mansion and stayed in like a Motel 6 with an oven and everything for 3 months.
To train with you.
To train with me and paid for his best friend. And we just grinded every day. So,
Badass.
so I'm already adding up what amount of money this is going to be. And we're having this conversation about training, and he's questioning. I'm like, God dang it.
Yeah, because
I got to answer this honestly.
You want his value.
Or else I'm going to F up my money. And that was, for me back then, that's some life-changing money.
Yeah.
Money back then. And I just say, hey, man, you know, this is my philosophy and why. And he goes, you know. And he got quiet for a minute. He goes, and I'm like, oh, he's about to tell me to go F off. You know, and he goes, all right, you're the expert. You're a flex wheeler. I'm not. Let's go.
Yep.
And he ended up doing it. And now he even talks about 20s to change your life and all that. And
you know, that's where a lot, I don't tell anybody this, but that's a lot where I got my warm-ups.
Really?
The 4 sets of 25.
Yeah.
I did it pre-exhaustion, and I've been doing it for like 5 years, and my world record squats kept going up, right?
It's because you don't do that much damage.
No.
And, you know, I mean, obviously I didn't know this at the beginning of my career, but towards my end of my career, we started doing 20s and everything like that. But I just, you know, people say you'd burn out. And I just, you know, I would study.
Yeah.
So you look at guys in prison, historically some of the biggest chests,
Yeah,
biggest
and they have
arms in the
nothing
world.
to work out
All
with.
they do is bang chest and arms.
Right?
You look at like an Olympic speed skater. Some of the sickest roundest squats. All they do is a squat position going. That's it, all day long.
It's just
Cross
tons of
country
volume.
skiers, all that massive freaking legs. Cyclists that do the cycling,
Velodrome.
massive freaking legs. So I'm like,
Volume.
It's not. You can't exceed this muscle by pounding it with weight.
Yeah.
It's accumulation of weight and volume. So that's, you know, let's do these 60
I mean, that's
things.
completely different topic, but you're definitely on the nail with that, because I've learned the same thing, even to raise my max strength.
Yeah, it takes your max strength.
But
up,
what year do you feel like you were your strongest, and what would some of those numbers have looked like?
We didn't even.
Did you ever try to squat max once?
Never. No.
Close to?
No, nope.
Could you
I
hit
think 6 plates. Yeah, 6 plates. I did
585?
for reps. I did for reps, and I remember coughing up blood.
Fuck
And
that.
I just told him, So Chris and Rico were stronger than me. I even, you know, especially training with Stan. I learned at a young age, stay in my own lane, or else they're going to bend me out. So, you know, Chris was always stronger than me. Chris Cormier. Rico was always stronger than me. So I just did my max, and I didn't let their max
So you could
F
do
with me.
around 600 for reps.
Yeah,
on
for
squats.
reps.
What about
For reps.
bench?
Bench, we didn't go over 5 plates. I just didn't, but we still had to do 10. So back then, we called them washers. You don't put on freaking 5s and 10s and quarters. You put on plate. If you can't put on a plate, move.
Yeah.
You know, get out of here. So it's just, we don't put on these freaking washers.
Sounds familiar.
So 5 plates on that. But the thing about it is we had to do our full workout with 10, you know, and then you go on to, you know, doing like the 190s, you know, dumbbell, but you're doing sets of 10. So it's not just how heavy it is, it's accumulation of that heavy workout throughout that whole
Yeah, so you're not
workload.
doing one big heavy set and then you're done. It's tons of volume.
But we just didn't, I mean, I was around
Were
strong
you ever a
people.
big deadlifter? Because I remember,
which
is crazy because your spinal erectors and your fucking lats were just nasty.
Yeah, and you know, and I
glutes.
think, that's
what did
just
you use to build-
hereditary.
what did you use to
I
build
did
that?
half deadlift.
Half deadlifts.
Yeah, half
like
deadlift.
out of
I think
pins?
there was a
like
picture of me standing with Mike with Charles Glass, and it's like half, and I'm just like here, just raising up and back.
It's like a pin pull.
Yeah, because what I
Did you
learned,
do
I
it
had a
in
lot
a-
of back injuries.
Okay.
And what I learned is, you know, my weakest pendulum area is my spine and my waist. So back then, off season, my legs would be a little bit over 33 inches.
Fuck.
And off season, my waist would be a little bit over 28. So where's the weakest point? It's all that pressure is going to go to there. So you look at any.
So your frame actually limited your mass,
and
but it helped your aesthetics.
Yeah, so I always would have all these back injuries, and still to date now, all these surgeries, but all from that, you know, just doing that. So, but what we always knew, even back then, all right, you put on 5 plates, 6 plates, you know, you do 6 or 7, but pull that shit off. Put 315 on there and do 20. You'll either mentally pass out or physically pass out, not to mention your legs are on fire. A lot of the times you just don't want that.
Yeah.
Right.
It feels better just to put on heavy weight, knock it out a couple of times and walk around than it does to put on a lighter weight and pop off some reps. So like that takes you somewhere mentally that most people don't want that. You know
I think
what I mean?
that's what separated me from a lot of my competition was O'Hearn last year. Well, maybe a year and a half ago now. He did 500 for 16 on squats and called me out on it. So I did it for 21.
Mike is always smart, you know.
But those fucking that shit when your vision's going like this, you don't get that from 1RMs.
No, you
that's something where like the you know, the lactic acid is so poisonous, and your body
That's
just
what we
wants to
talked
shut down.
with when we had your buddy Greg in.
Yeah.
So he talked about how he would grind it out and just start to pass out while he was doing it and just keep going.
You know what? And it takes more strength to move that weight multiple times than it does to do one seriously pop. It truly does.
Yeah.
The muscle is in better condition. It's stronger. And then if you want to, you can do that big push.
Yeah.
Because you built up endurance, and the muscle just has a whole different type of density to it.
Yeah, 1RMs are one of those things. It's like candy, but it's the other shit that makes it.
No,
makes
you don't
it
want.
grow.
You gotta.
Yeah.
You gotta really take yourself there.
So
mentally.
if you were coming back through now and had the genetics that you had, what would have been some of the things that you would have changed in your training?
I just wouldn't. I wouldn't even went to like 6 plates. I mean,
We never went heavy
Nah,
enough.
I mean, I probably all my back surgeries that I had was just all that heavy, trying to keep up with everybody else, you know, and
Versus doing your own shit.
yeah, and just doing mine. So even though I didn't try to go heavier than that, like I said, I knew in my head I got a better workout and I'd be ready to pass out. Legs are on fire, 315 and 20 instead of going up to 5 or 6 plates and squatting and knee all wrapped and you're stepping off like this and all that stuff. It's not really a workout. And I was a bodybuilder. I wasn't a power lifter.
Yeah,
but back in that time, if you didn't throw heavy weight around, you wasn't shit.
Yeah.
And me, Rico, and Chris, we literally consider ourselves the strongest people in Gold's Gym. You didn't come down there and F around. I remember, the great Lou Ferrigno, first time, we were training, he was next to us. And so he put on a plate, and we smashed off 2 plates, and he put on another plate. We smashed off all of us 3 plates, we kind of looking at each other.
And Ferrigno's still not super old yet.
But he was like in his 40s back then.
Yeah.
He was a monster.
Yeah, I remember seeing pictures of him.
So he put on 3 and he barely, gets 10, and I put on 3 and I'm bang, 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 get my 10. Rico does. He kind of looks over. He's like, you guys are strong. Then we throw on 4, bang, bang, bang. You know what I mean? So it was just about, what was it about?
Yeah.
But now I understand, don't mentally masturbate with somebody else. Man, they can't get down for you.
Yeah.
They're not going to walk on stage for you. They can't help you in any way. All they can do is cause you to do something that's going to get you caught up in somebody else's lane. So why even deal with that?
Right.
You know what I mean?
They're not going to hold your hand during your surgery when you get worked on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they're probably laughing because they ain't got to deal with you on stage now. But it was just so competitive back then where, we were just caught up in that, So that would be the big thing I would change.
The first guy, and maybe it's my generation, but the first guy I remember talking about never went super heavy and gained all that muscle mass was Jay Cutler.
Yeah.
Jay Cutler trains kind of like what you were saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think he did anything that wasn't at least over 12.
It just doesn't, it's weird because now we have the technology that proves it.
Yeah.
But, towards the end of my career when I started doing the 20s, there was everybody, oh, you're going to burn out the muscle. You can't grow like that. Oh, you're doing too many reps, blah, blah, blah. But it just worked. And I kept going back to what I said. Olympic skiers, Olympic cyclists, it has to be something more than that. So all I'm going to do is add a little bit more weight to it and do those repetitions. And almost it's kind of like HIIT training.
Yeah.
I don't want to use that or class at that, but it's high repetitions. And
they should have called it flex training.
I've been trying, me and Stan have been trying to come up because everybody has their training system.
Yeah.
And I know Stan started, saying, 20 to save your life. And his other guy's like, you need to coin that, man. And I'm like,
So I first got that idea from talking to you with Stan. And then there was a guy from Australia that runs one of the professional rugby teams. And he had been experimenting with doing pre-fatigue sets before core lifts. So if they did, say, squats, they would do 4 sets of 25 hamstring curls, 4 sets of 25, some kind of abdominal. Yeah. And what he started noticing is that their strength levels were rising and their lean mass was increasing.
Going down. And that's the reason why I don't have to have my athletes do cardio now, because you're so cardio taxed.
Yep.
At the end, doing a full workout of 20s, it's not necessary.
Yeah, if you're doing the right resistance training, it's hitting all those energy systems.
And, like I was saying, how much meat I used to eat back then, it was just too much. 88 ounces of filet mignon a day is just, it's not necessary to ingest that much protein. So, what we didn't know back then, again, because we thought, bigger is better.
What would you say would be the right, let's say I want to weigh 250 and I want to be as lean as possible. How much meat should I eat a day?
I couldn't give you that equation because I don't know right off the, if I didn't know you, I don't know if your capability is being 250. All right, say if you got to 250, are you healthy at that? You know
right.
what I mean? I mean, can your body actually handle it? Okay,
Yeah.
250, are you fat or not? You know what
Right.
I mean? So many other questions I'd have to pop in there before I even can answer
Which is
that.
awesome, because it's the same questions I get, and you're giving me the same answer, which
There's no
is
freaking way.
there's a full circle spectrum of, are you getting enough sleep? What's your body fat? What's your preconditioning level?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
what
you have you have existing
injuries?
problems. And yeah, so probably
Yeah.
like yourself, before I even work with an athlete, I send them and have all their blood work panel done, because I need to know if I'm working against something or if I'm gonna,
Yep.
you know, put you in some type of danger. But you know, those are the first telltale signs that just somebody I don't want to work with. And now, like we're talking, drugs are so prevalent that you know, they think, you know, that you got to take the whole entire kitchen sink. I'm like, no, it's about hard fucking work. So that's the reason why you want to take the drugs so much, because you don't want to put in that hard ass, consistent, lonely, hard work every day. It's easier to take, you know, more drugs. And I've always said, hey, listen, you know, you can't take a Volkswagen and make it into a Ferrari.
No.
You can put a little Volkswagen, you can put a kit on it and put Ferrari signals, but it ain't a Ferrari. But if I have a Ferrari and I choose to like turbocharge my engine or put a nicer rims on it, I'm only just like adding some little additives
to
to
your
it.
Ferrari.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that the drugs are only going to help you to work harder. If you took every drug in the
powerlifting-
world and don't work out, it
You ain't going to do anything.
In powerlifting, here's what we say: the drugs help 10%, meaning that where do you want your 10% to help you? So if you're already benching 550, your bench is going to go up 55 pounds, and now you bench 605. If you're taking drugs at 250, your bench is going to go to 280. And I don't know how that is in powerlifting or in bodybuilding, or how.
I just was an extreme responder. I think you remember Victor from Valco Laboratory when he did that.
Conte.
Yeah, Victor Conte. When he did that that study on extreme responders and the genetic mutation of the myostatin.
Yeah.
I was won all that, so I was the highest of all that had more muscle fibers per something like that. My mutation was greater, so I mean, even back then, like, oh, you just look at the weights and, you know, it looked like you grow. Well, from the science he did, there was something to it, so I just responded. I mean, I just
your myostatin receptors. Are just totally insane.
Metamorphosis. But what's funny is and sad is, if you go back and look at Kenny Wheeler when he first started training to Flex Wheeler towards the end of his career at his prime, you look at the metamorphosis my body went through, but man, you have no idea how bent you are up here. I mean, just the drugs and what it does, it just bent, and you never really realize it until you've walked away from the sport maybe 10 years deep, that everything is out of your system, that you start to look at things normal. I mean, just the metamorphosis, but you have to recognize that it's going to happen. You know, sometimes I'll get women like, oh, I don't take that much. I'm like, listen, let's not even have that conversation, so I don't put you in a position to insult my intelligence. It doesn't matter. Whatever amount that you take, there's going to be a consequence to your action. How about if I just say, you know what? I only take a little bit of progesterone a day. You know, a little bit of estrogen a day. The freak you think's going to happen to me after months of a little bit a day?
It's cumulative.
Yeah, isn't that what men do when they want to change their sex? Just a little bit. So, you know, there's just a consequences to every action, and you got to realize, I think, first and foremost, of accepting what are your strengths and your weaknesses, and then falling in love with that process and just going to that limit.
Right.
Versus saying, you know, I'm willing to do a little bit more, and paying the consequences. I think that's what give all of our sport, powerlifting and bodybuilding, a black eye, because there's just people who are not meant to be doing this stuff and don't have the ability, who are throwing everything in a kitchen sink behind it and not, you know, either A, putting themselves in danger life-wise, or B, just being disgruntled when they're done.
I've seen guys take more stuff than you could possibly imagine, and they can't squat 500 pounds, and they want to be a powerlifter. And I'm like,
and Matt,
you've just burned your body completely to the gills for jack shit.
Yeah, receptors are fried and everything, and then they're mad at you because you're lying, because you take more than this, because I took this amount and I didn't get this, so you got to be taking more than that, and you're a freaking liar.
And there's some things with bodybuilding physically and mentally and powerlifting physically, you can't give people with a program.
And a drug is not going to get it there. No, I've always said an athlete is born.
Yeah.
An athlete is born. Now, you can take that athleticism and
use
be
it
one
or
of the
not.
greatest athletes in the world,
Yeah.
or you can be one of the worst criminals in the world, because it's the same attributes. And you have some athletic people who are just incredible, who are the worst criminals. They're in prison. You know, I used to tell my son, you know, he's like, you know, I want to be like you. I want to be a great athlete. I'm like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Because I can take you to prison and show you some of the greatest running backs and wide receivers and basketball and football players. I'm like, so what do you really mean by that? It's what you take with that athleticism and how you apply it.
Right,
you know
exactly.
what I mean?
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, you look at these guys that run these huge mafia programs, they could run any bank.
Yeah.
But they decided to go the other direction, you know what I mean?
Look at some of the drug dealers. I remember, you might be too young, but I remember when they tried to introduce the metric system to United States. So I think I was like maybe in the 8th or 9th grade.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Yeah. But they tried to introduce a metric system, and we failed horribly. So they pulled it away. But every drug dealer in the world now deals with metrics.
Grams and ounces.
So
yeah.
it's just what switched them over to do what it took to learn.
Yeah.
Hence, obviously, you know, they could.
Their math.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing.
Yeah, because you don't go buy 2 pounds of cocaine, you go buy kilos.
Yeah.
because
Right.
you got to be precise
the
with
choir.
that, you know.
So, do you still do any private personal training or any?
Yeah, I do. I do. I'm
Where can we
very
get a hold of
picky.
you at?
So crap, you can get a hold of me at my Instagram. It's official Flex Wheeler.
Yep.
You can email me, which I'm old school.
Yep.
I have kenflexwheeler@yahoo.com,
Yep.
or I have thelegend@gmail.com.
And then what kind of supplement stuff you into right now?
So just made the announcement, I think last night, that I just bought into a company. So I'm 20% owner of my own nutrition line. And we're going to be opening my personal line with Flex Wheeler supplements
Badass.
globally. So I'm really excited about that. They'll be hearing more about that.
What are some of the key products you saw missing in the market that you put in there?
You know what? Probably one of the biggest things is trace minerals.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got to say, one of the things that Victor Conte taught me that really stuck is, it doesn't matter what drug you do, it doesn't matter how you eat, if your trace minerals are off, everything's going to be off.
Mm-hmm.
So that just taught me, so you mean, and I asked him, so you mean these are more important than drugs? He goes, yeah, because if your trace minerals are off, your vitamins and minerals and all that stuff are off, anything you put into your body is not going to utilize it 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to start at that baseline, and 9 times out of 10, everybody want to learn, you know, the best things. They don't
Yeah.
wanna, they don't care about that.
You know, something that's funny is Charles always talked about the same thing, Poliquin.
Mm-hmm.
And one of his big minerals that he saw 4 out of 5 people deficient in was magnesium.
Magnesium and vitamin D.
Yep, vitamin D
Yeah.
with K2.
Yeah, yeah.
But a lot of that's, one, we don't get enough sunlight because now sunlight's bad for you.
Exactly. Yeah, supposedly.
2,
Well, yeah.
magnesium's been sucked out of the soil from the herbicides and pesticides.
Exactly. Exactly.
But if you know, magnesium levels actually cause your insulin sensitivity to not work right,
right.
which make you store more body fat,
Right.
not utilize.
It's
any
a
of that.
downhill battle.
So you're doing
So
a lot
other
of
than
the
that,
trace minerals.
with Back Widow, which, you know, we're doing really great. We have a booth here at the Arnold, and
Which booth is that going to be at?
1835.
And they have a website?
Yeah, we have a website. Let me look and make sure.
Yeah, go
I don't
ahead.
Screw this up. Yeah, we have a website. It's backwidow.com, and we have an Instagram, which is backwidow.
Okay.
And then obviously I have my athlete who's competing Friday, actually, who I'm super excited about, Keon Pearson.
Okay.
Which is just a super phenomenal athlete. We're really excited to see what happens.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Hopefully your editing skills are really good. You know, or else.
Oh yeah.
That's not big deal.
I'm just gonna zoom in on your face as you look it up.
Dun, dun, dun.
1835. I was right. Yeah, 1835. So.
Awesome. Well, 1835 booth. Get a hold of Flex Wheeler at Black Widow, and his
Look him up on Instagram.
Yeah, my
Your
Instagram, which is
official
official
Flex
Flex Wheeler, and my nutrition company for
We'll
real
post his
supplements.
personal phone number
And like I
so
said,
you can
if
call him.
Stan Efferding used him to get his IFBB Pro card and completely changed his training around. And
Stan is just different, man. That guy
it's
just
amazing to
grind.
watch the hybrid of how Stan was able to blend the strength with the bodybuilding, and it's amazing to listen to him with his diet, how it's very eerily similar. You know, so I'm glad that
What
I'm
works,
kind of a
works.
hybrid off of Flex Wheeler.
Yeah, what
Kind
works
of a
is
childhood dream.
Yeah, what works is work, and you know the other great thing about Stan is he's never hidden from giving me my respect of what I brought to the table.
yeah.
You know, I mean, some people are just don't do that. I won't.
He talks
I won't say
about-
the other person,
Yeah.
you know, who's big in the bodybuilding world, but they stole his 10-minute walks. And never mentioned that Stan was the first person who ever did it. So that person very known now about 10-minute walks. And I'm like, that's your
Fuckers.
boy. He goes, yeah. And I'm like, God dang, he didn't even say your name. So he's like,
Yeah.
people now think he owns it. And he goes, it's okay. I'm like, but
Well,
it's
Stan
not okay.
Stan talks about you quite a bit
Yeah.
when you're not around, so I wouldn't worry about that.
It's lies, you know. Those things that happen in Puerto Rico, I did not do. And that
Yeah,
was
why don't all these
him.
rich people just fly overseas to do this stuff and they wouldn't get in trouble?
Costs, the cameras and technology is
Yeah.
worse.
Less paparazzi.
Yeah,
guess.
it's less chance for it coming back and
That's
knocking
right.
on your door. So,
Well, all right, brother. We'll talk at you later. I appreciate it more than you know.
no, I appreciate it. I'm glad we were able to make it happen. And
Oh, yeah.
I just want to say, man, along with that, I've just been a huge fan of yours.
Thanks, man.
It's great, like Stan, you don't see you coming because your intelligence is so far, superior to the way you look. So when you walk through the door, you just don't think that's going to happen. And, I've seen a lot of the threads where people trying to give you a hard time, not even knowing how educated and intelligent you are. But it's amazing. And it's just finally great to, have you here on your show.
Well, we'll definitely do some more shit together.
Yep, for sure.
All right, homie.
All right, bro.
Awesome.
Thank you once again for joining us here on the Winning Strength Podcast. Don't forget to check out winningstrength.com and winningstrengthmedia.com for all of your training needs. And while you're at it, subscribe to us on iTunes and Stitcher. And if you get a chance, give us a 5-star review. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time on the Winning Strength Podcast.